Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Bomert and I will be presenting my superfood, which is mushrooms. I will be supplying you with a bunch of wonderful information on this superfood and why you should implement it more into your diet. So without further ado, let's begin. So first off, what is a mushroom? A mushroom is like the fruit of the fungal organism that produces it, and the fungal organism produces mushrooms to carry spores, and these spores carry out asexual reproduction, which ensure the continuation of each specific species of mushroom. Therefore, the mushroom is the reproductive organ of the fungus. This means that by picking a mushroom, we do not harm the fungus itself because the main body of the organism lies underground in the form of a network of branching filaments called hyphae, and when two compatible hyphae meet, they join together to form another network called the mycelium, which grows quietly and unseen underground. And while mycelium grows beneath the soil, it can also grow in decaying materials such as wood. And as you can see on the screen, there is these white filaments protruding into the soil from the mushroom, and those are hyphae, which come in contact with each other and form the network, which is mycelium. And you can also see mushrooms growing on the wood, which is a decaying material, and they also grow on leaves on the ground as well. And mycelium are very important because they are the vegetative part of the fungus. Their role is to secrete enzymes to digest the food externally, and then the mycelium absorbs the digested nutrients. And it's also important to note that fungi, like mushrooms, are stationary. So without this network of white filaments growing outward to find nutrients into the soil, there would be no possible way for the conditions to be met to produce a mushroom. This next slide discusses the many different forms or available forms of mushrooms. First being cultivated mushrooms, which are your portobello, cremino, porcino, and white button mushrooms as seen on the picture on the left of the slide. They're the most common ones that you've probably eaten if you've got them from a grocery store. Another form of mushrooms can also be in the form of pills or capsules. As seen on the screen, there is a box that contains the mushroom lion's mane. It is a type of medicinal mushroom that is widely available in supplement form like many other mushrooms. Specifically, research has found that lion's mane may protect against dementia, reduce mild symptoms of anxiety and depression, and also help repair nerve damage. It also has strong anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and immune-boosting abilities. And simply put, it is easy and convenient to swallow a pill with the listed benefits compared to cooking and eating a sufficient amount of the lion's mane mushroom to obtain a similar response. And last but not least, the picture all the way to the far right is the psychedelic mushroom, which is in a dry form. As far as what research has been done on mushrooms, in this slide I'll be talking about two different types of mushrooms. First one is a medicinal mushroom, and the second one is a magic mushroom. So the first study goes into talking about ternatin, and that's a cyclic peptide isolated from the medicinal mushroom Coriolus versicolor. It is found to suppress hyperglycemia and hepatic fatty acid synthesis in diabetics. This mushroom, and like many others, has also been shown to contain a high level of polysaccharides and is used as a traditional medicine to treat cancer, AIDS, and even fungal infections. And during this study by the Journal of Molecular Sciences, they experimented with mice and viewed the effects this mushroom had on tumor-bearing mice as well as obese diabetic mice. And after experimentation, their findings supported the idea that ternatin suppresses hyperglycemia and tumor necrosis factor produced from the spleen lymphocytes treated tumor-bearing mice. And that can be very useful to us and to use with humans as well, because it could also potentially treat humans with tumors as well as helping people that are diabetic. As magic mushrooms go, they contain an active ingredient, which is psilocybin, and psilocybin has an alteration in sensory perception and serotonergic activity, and the research for this agent has been focused on mental health conditions with abnormalities in sensory perception, such as depressive disorders and anxiety or anxiety-related disorders. Psilocybin has also been researched for use in substance use disorders as well. And this slide also shows the relationship between serotonin and psilocybin and DMT, as well as LSD, and the three hallucinogens to the right of the screen kind of correlate and have similar chemical compound structures like serotonin. And now going into the benefits of mushrooms and why you should definitely incorporate them into your healthy eating. As I stated in the previous slide, mushrooms are rich in polysaccharides, and the polysaccharides they're especially rich in are beta glucans, which can stimulate the immune system and provide the beneficial properties to medicinal mushrooms when compared to other mushrooms. And these beta glucans are responsible for the many health benefits that come from eating mushrooms, such as lowering cholesterol and regulating blood glucose. For the nutritional value of mushrooms, they have a high protein content as well as a sufficient amount of vitamins and minerals, fibers, trace elements, and are low in calories. They are also beneficial in acting as an anti-inflammatory. They are also anti-cancer and anti-tumor, as I mentioned in the previous slide. Mushrooms are also considered a prebiotic, which stimulate the growth of beneficial microbiota. And gut microbiota are very important because they play a big role for the health of an individual. They help control digestion and they benefit your immune system, and they also maintain other aspects of your health and also protect against your liver. And also seen on the slide, the recent trend in food science and technology has shown the association of prebiotics to modulate the human gut microbiota and attenuate several disease conditions such as diabetes, obesity, as well as cancer. As far as who benefits, everyone can benefit from the intake of mushrooms. However, if I'm going to get more specific into populations, for starters, in cultivated mushrooms, they contain a high amount of vitamin C. And according to a journal by Kozarski, he found that 100 milligrams of ascorbic acid in the dry weight of 100 grams of edible mushrooms. And when you compare that to fruits and vegetables, which are usually recommended as a good source of vitamin C, the content of vitamin C is much higher in mushrooms. And mushrooms also contain a sufficient amount of fiber, vitamins E, K, and B, as well as the minerals. And by intaking certain edible mushrooms, it may be beneficial to other populations that are prone to cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and cancer. And with this high amount of ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, it can also be beneficial for people that have a vitamin C deficiency, such as scurvy. I know that's not very common anymore, except when pirates experienced it. Also, according to another literature review on the antioxidants of edible mushrooms, mushroom polysaccharides and glycoconjugates may be useful in creating new natural-based medications or dietary supplements and are helpful in the prevention and treatment of oxidative stress-mediated disorders. And examples of these disorders are like the ones that I mentioned that are listed previously, like cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and cancer. But it's also beneficial to patients with atherosclerosis and neurodegenerative diseases such as Huntington's disease, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's disease. And the reason why it's so important to control oxidative stress is because it can damage cells, proteins, and even DNA, which contribute to aging. And oxidative stress occurs when there is an imbalance between the production of free radicals and the body's ability to counteract their damaging effects through neutralization with antioxidants. So having a higher intake of antioxidants, such as the wonderful superfood mushrooms, we can combat the issue of oxidative stress. And now those are more related to cultivated mushrooms. Magic mushrooms, I talked a little bit of a population earlier. And I'll bring up another literature review which discusses the clinical potential of psilocybin as a treatment for mental health conditions. And as I stated earlier, that's the active ingredient in magic mushrooms. The reason they use psilocybin as the main focus of this clinical treatment is due to the fact that psilocybin produces hallucination as well as changes in sensory perception and serotonergic activity. This review included individual studies of 5 different mental health conditions, and based on all the studies that were presented, they all show potentially positive benefits with minimal safety concerns for psilocybin use in suicidality, anxiety disorders, OCD, alcohol use disorders and tobacco use disorders with improvements in target symptoms. So the mental health conditions I have just listed may potentially benefit from psilocybin as seen in this study. However, this was a research study done in a clinical setting, so it may have adverse effects for people that just use it recreationally. So now you may be wondering, what are some of the precautions to taking mushrooms? And those are differently seen between cultivated mushrooms as well as magic mushrooms. There's not too many with cultivated mushrooms, but the main one is you must cook your mushrooms. They're essentially indigestible if eaten raw because they have really thick cell walls. So by cooking mushrooms, you allow the nutrients to become more bioavailable to you. And another compound that is seen on raw mushrooms are toxins, which may also be carcinogenic. And these can only be removed through the process of cooking and applying heat to the mushroom. Other precautions to take are they should be free of bruising, so no blue coloration on the mushroom. And make sure you use them within the expiration date. I would not use them if they are expired. As far as magic mushrooms go, you should know that they cause hallucinations. They may cause nausea, rapid heart rate, as well as headaches. They can as well cause muscle weakness and GI discomfort. And another precaution to take is to not do it by yourself if you are going to take magic mushrooms, if you ever have them. You want someone to be there with you and be there to look after you, similar to like the people did in a clinical study, to make sure that the individual is safe while they were on magic mushrooms, specifically the ingredient psilocybin. As far as contraindications goes for mushrooms, for any mushroom that you might see in the field or forest, do not pick it and eat it. You might find it to be poisonous, even though it's edible. This is why you must bring them to the mushroom experts, such as a mycologist, so that they can tell you whether or not they are safe to eat. An example of a poisonous mushroom that looks normal is the one represented on the screen. You can see it looks like a regular average mushroom, and even when you eat it, it tastes just like a normal mushroom as well. However, they can be extremely poisonous, and they can cause nausea, vomiting, as well as diarrhea. And they may even cause some serious damage to the liver, which can become fatal later on. And you don't start to see symptoms and signs until between 6 and 24 hours after you've ingested the mushroom. And you should also not eat mushrooms if you are severely allergic to the mushrooms. For magic mushrooms, you should definitely avoid them if you are pregnant, because they can cause serious health-related issues for both the women and the baby. People who experience symptoms of an altered mental status should also not take magic mushrooms, and those can be described in the DSM-5. I know I mentioned earlier that magic mushrooms specifically contain the compound psilocybin can be beneficial for individuals with an altered mental status. However, the research was done in a clinical setting and subjects were being carefully monitored throughout the whole entire study. So it's far different when compared to experimenting with this form of mushroom in the comfort of your own home. And another contraindication is concerned more with mushroom supplements. Simply, patients who have undergone an organ transplant procedure should not take mushroom supplements because they can enhance immunity against foreign substances. And if you just recently got an organ transplant, it's a foreign substance, so you can put that transplant at risk. And now that I've explained to you most of what you need to know about mushrooms, you may be wondering where you can get them. Well, you can find mushrooms either in the spring or the fall through the forest if you want to go out and pick them. But of course, if you're going to eat these mushrooms you picked, you definitely want to make sure that you know of a mycologist so he can identify them for you, make sure that they're safe. If you're thinking about supplementing with mushrooms, you can find them in a vitamin shop or supplement store such as GNC, Vitamin Shop, or Stacked or FitRx. You can also find them available in grocery stores, as seen on the screen. There's multiple varieties of mushrooms that I'm sure you could find, and they all taste very good. And as far as accessing magic mushrooms, more importantly psilocybin, it's difficult to obtain because it is illegal in the United States. So I don't really know where you can access them. It's not very easy to access them. However, in Canada, there's an online dispensary which is used specifically for medical patients as well as research and scientific purposes. So the only possible other way would be to obtain it from a mycologist, which can help you find mushrooms that contain psilocybin. As for the physically active individuals, mushrooms can provide many benefits to athletes as well as individuals who constantly push their bodies to their limit. For example, athletes need to train vigorously and frequently. Due to this, it can cause stress on the nervous system as well as the immune system, and this is where the reishi mushroom comes into play, which is known as the king of mushrooms. And this type of mushroom has been used for traditional medicine to boost resiliency and immunity because they are also considered adaptogens which support the body during times of stress. So by increasing your consumption of mushrooms, you can potentially allow yourself to continue your intensity at a much higher level for a longer period of time. Mushrooms are also shown to boost metabolism due to containing a high level of B vitamins as well as fiber, proteins, and carbohydrates. Their low calorie content is a main contributor to weight loss, though, as seen on the slide. There is 15 calories for a serving of dry mushrooms, and that's approximately 80 to 100 grams. And now this is a food that offers a lot of volume, which will keep you fuller for longer without significantly increasing your calorie intake. And again, it provides a good source of fiber, protein, and carbs. And then lastly, lion's mane, which is a mushroom I've mentioned earlier in previous slides. That's a pill supplement form of mushroom. It contains neuroactive compounds that promote nerve growth factor, which make it a potent brain and nerve supporter. And the overall function of the nerve growth factor is to regulate the growth, maintenance, proliferation, and survival of certain target neurons. And the lion's mane mushroom can also be recognized as a natural nootropic, which is why it seems to promote healthy brain function as well as increasing mental focus, which can be extremely beneficial for an individual performing physical activity. As far as the incorporation into the diet, mushrooms, as long as you cook them, you can put them in soups. They can be a side dish, an entree, and also you can take them in pills. I know for lion's mane, which is on the screen, it's 2 serving capsules and it's 30 servings, which you can take those 2 capsules every day for a month in order to get the benefits from that mushroom. Or in the top right corner, you can have a delicious entree with mushrooms and rice and whatever type of sauce that is. And that can be very filling and provide you with a bunch of nutrients. You can also have it in a soup, or you can have a formulated powder with multiple purposes and benefits provided from mushrooms as well as other substances that may be in that powder as well. And with this diet, I'm going to teach you a little bit of how to prepare mushrooms and make certain meals. And I seem to have forgotten to do this slide. I was just kidding about that last slide. I'm going to show you in person how to prepare mushrooms instead of doing it over text because that's boring. So first off, you got to go to the grocery store and get your mushrooms. Second off, you need a pan. Pretty self-explanatory. And the last thing you need is some olive oil or whatever you want to cook with, whether it be butter or like a spray, but this works the best because it puts more nutrients and good fatty acids into your mushrooms. Oh hey, the next step is to wash your mushrooms because it's a fungus and it's in the ground, so you don't know what's on them. Just like how you wash your fruits and vegetables, you should wash your mushrooms. So that's the next step. Now that you have washed and prepared your mushrooms, the next step is to get your pan to a nice good heat. And then you can start putting in the oil. Put as much as you want. You can put 2 tablespoons. Make sure to get it all around in the pan. And then you just gotta add your mushrooms. Alright, now that you've thoroughly cooked your mushrooms for about 10 minutes, which is the time it took me to, making sure to get rid of that thick cell wall so you can get all the nutrients and benefits you need from these mushrooms. You could add them into an omelet if you're a breakfast person and love omelets, or you can add them as a side dish like I'm going to do later with my chicken and rice, or you can just have them as a snack right now. And that's how you cook mushrooms and prepare mushrooms so that they look like that. Now let's go back to the slide and learn some fun facts about mushrooms. Alright, now the two interesting facts that I found about mushrooms is that one's bioluminescent and then the other tastes like fried chicken. Can you guess which one is which? And if you guessed, there's a picture on the top, which is the green looking mushroom. That's the one that's bioluminescent. It glows in the dark, which is pretty interesting, pretty cool, especially if you're in a forest and you see a bunch of glowing mushrooms. And the one on the bottom, which is the orange mushroom, it's called the Letoporus mushroom. That one tastes just like fried chicken apparently. I've never tried it, but it'd be interesting to try it. And that concludes my slide. Here are all my references. I hope that I taught you a little bit more about mushrooms and you learned something from my presentation. If you have any questions, let me know down below in the discussion board and I'd be happy to answer them. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.